Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to take a look at another of the newly buffed Pokemon for the Open Great League, Greedent. Greedent has always been incredibly spammy and a pretty good save swap for the Open Great League, but with the addition of Mudshot, it just became even spammier, getting to body slams after only 8 turns, making it one of the fastest Pokemon in the game. I paired it with Shadow Gligar on the lead because I feel like I didn't really showcase Shadow Gligar well enough in the last video, so I wanted to give it another go. Shadow Charizard kind of took over a little bit. I couldn't resist, okay? And then also Lickitung, making this an ABB team where you can use either of the back two as the save swap. I think Lickitung is better because there are so many Medichams, but if you're seeing more Registeel, maybe Greedent can be better because Greedent, a good Greedent, can actually win the one shields against Registeel and has quite a lot of play against it, which Lickitung doesn't really. Overall, I went 16-9 with this team and it performed pretty well. Let's take a look at the battles. Going into the first game, we lead into Sableye. Good lead for Shadow Gligar. You can win the 1 straight dig, you can win the 2 straight area lays, but we'd have 2 better responses in the back, so I try to catch a move on Lickitung. My opponent had the same idea. They tried to catch a move on their Azumarill, indicating that they probably also have something else kinda good against Gligar in the back, because Sableye Gligar is a relatively neutral matchup, although it is generally to Gligar's advantage. But this is a very good matchup for Lickitung. I got a little bit lucky with this simultaneous swap as we go for the Power Whip. They will be able to make it to one more player off before we make it to the next Power Whip, but it is 6-5, 6-5, so we can overfarm quite a lot with Lickitung. A Body Slam only does about 18%, so I'm not quite sure it's going to be able to take them out, so I don't risk it. I go for the Power Whip instead to make sure I can take it out, or grab a shield. It does take out the Azumarill. And then they're gonna bring in a Powder Snow, Alolan Ninetales. Very nice that we won switch, because now we can let the Lickitung go down. I should have gone for the Power Whip as well here, because we can't make it to 2 Body Slams. Bring in the Greedent onto the Alolan Ninetales, because we absolutely do not want to see a nice tap on the Shadow Gligar, of course. They go up to 8, go for the Weather Ball. It takes 5-4, 5-4. So they can make it to another one. We don't really have to shield any of these. We do need to be aware that the Sableye has a move in the back, but yeah, we can go up to 2 before they make it to the next Weather Ball. Wait a turn to make sure the Body Slam is not caught on Sableye. And then, because we have 2 Body Slams stored, we can wait one more turn, go for another Body Slam. It's not caught onto Sableye. This will either take out the Ninetales or grab a shield. It takes out the Ninetales. We go up to the Crunch afterwards. My opponent, perfect overfarm, goes for the CMP tie with Sableye. But as I said in the beginning, we're in the 2 shield scenario. We've already done a lot of wing attack damage. With the wing attacks adding up, 1 area lace is enough to take out Sableye, regardless of the IVs of Shadow Gligar and Sableye. So we go for the first area lace, and because Gligar simply outpaces, it takes 5-5-5 and 6-6-5 for the Sableye. We will be able to just outpace them to these area laces, still let one of them go, and it just does too much damage. There's no way they're getting to 3 foul plays, so we can just wing attack them down after taking that or shielding that foul play. Next game, lead into a Bastiodon. This is a good lead for Shadow Gligar, of course, but I'm very wary that Bastiodon is often, accompanied by Medicham, Shadow Victreebel, stuff like that. So I might need to preserve my Shadow Gligar. So even though I do win the 0 shield scenario, I can live this. I want to preserve the Shadow Gligar. They go for the Stone Edge, and then we can overfarm massively before going for another dig. We do win all even shield scenarios here, so we go overfarm big, and then go for the dig right before they make it to another move. They should still be one more away, so if they shield this, we can get to another one. They don't shield it. Instead, they bring in a Wigglytuff. Lickitung has a terrible matchup against Wigglytuff, so we really want to get Greedent onto it as we go for the dig, which does big damage to the Wigglytuff. We let the Gligar go down so we can get in the Greedent on the Wigglytuff. It takes 8 for the first Disarming Voice, 7 for the second, so we can overfarm 2 right before they get there. Go for the Body Slam. This should take out the Wigglytuff if they no shield. They do shield it up. Go for the Disarming Voice. Disarming Voice is not the most hard-hitting move. I'm a little bit afraid of getting fast move down, but if there's one move I want to take, it's a Disarming Voice. As they bring in a Shadow Victreebel, no surprises here. We go for the Body Slam because Victreebel is very good at dishing out fast move damage, obviously. But it also doesn't really like taking fast move damage. So by going for that Body Slam, we can just shield once, farm the Victreebel all the way down, come out with close to 2 Body Slams, and because the Wigglytuff is dry and in Body Slam range, this game should be won. We go for the first Body Slam. Think my opponent is realizing we have too much energy, so they just let it go, and that is a good game, beating a Bastiodon. Next game, lead into a Greninja, a bit of a nightmare lead. I do stay in initially to try and catch the first move onto Lickitung. Lickitung is kind of a sponge. I do like to use it that way. Get some energy on Gligar. They do go for the Night Slash, and then they get the boost. which is really unfortunate. I don't like shielding my Lickitung. Maybe I should have, because this Hydro Cannon does massive damage to Lickitung, as we can make it to 1 Body Slam. But that Hydro Cannon put me in perfect farm range for the Greninja, so now they can come out with even more energy, and this thing boosted is just terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Bring in the Greedent. We saw how much damage the Hydro Cannon did to a Lickitung. Greedent is not as bulky as Lickitung. I don't want to see how much damage this Hydro Cannon does to a Greedent. They try to catch a Body Slam on their Alolan Marowak, save their Greninja for later. They farmed up to a Night Slash, but not quite to the Hydro Cannon, so we need to be aware of that. Then they bring in a Alolan Marowak, and they go for a Bone Club immediately. It takes 4 then 3 for the Bone Clubs. They've been throwing all of their moves immediately. I can go for 4 more Mud Shots and then go for another Crunch, or I can farm up a lot of energy on Greedent and then catch the move on Gligar. This is the Bone Club. Very nice catch. We save a lot of energy in Greedent, and then we also get a big farm down on Gligar. Get energy everywhere, which I do enjoy. In the back, they have a Gligar of their own. So, of course, we're going to go for Aerial Aces here. And then they're going to try to snipe me with Greninja. They didn't do a fast move, so I know they're only at the Night Slash, which I'm hoping I can live. We can just about live it on Gligar. I'm not familiar with this matchup. Apparently an Aerial Ace does about 48%. If I'd known that, I would have tried to undercharge it, because giving the Gligar an energy advantage or giving it a farm down is not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to leave the Greninja with a little bit of HP so I could farm it down afterwards, maybe come out with an Aerial Ace or farm it down with Greedent. But they do get a little bit of energy. It's not much. As we go for a second Body Slam, it doesn't look like 2 Body Slams is enough to take out, and they will be able to outpace to 2 Aerial Aces before I make it to 2 more Body Slams. So I go for the Crunch instead, hoping it would do a little bit more damage than Body Slam. It is more expensive, but actually, looking at it afterwards, Crunch does less damage than Body Slam. Like, Body Slam does more raw damage because it's stab, and it's just a really good move. Unfortunately, the Gligar takes out Greedent, and that is another good game. Next game, good lead into Deoxys, although if they go for the Psycho Boost and dip, and then bring back in the Deoxys into this matchup later and go for another Psycho Boost, this is actually not that comfortable of a matchup for Gligar at all. As they bring a Gligar, after going for the Psycho Boost, we go for 1 Aerial Ace. I didn't need to do that. I think I could have kept hold of the energy, because Lickitung has a very good matchup against regular Gligar. Against the Shadow Gligar, especially an attack-rated Shadow Gligar, which gets the attack breakpoint on Lickitung. It's not as comfortable at all, because that the Shadow Gligar can win the 1 shields. It can also win the 0 shields even. But against the regular Gligar, Lickitung has a pretty comfortable matchup. I don't want to give the Deoxys a lot of farm, so I try to get my Lickitung as low as possible, but I also want to take out the Gligar before they get to another move, so I can come out with this energy to throw it into Deoxys. But the Deoxys still gets some farm, which is not ideal. We don't make it to back-to-back Body Slam, so I go for the Power Whip instead, which does more damage than 1 Body Slam, and then bring back in the Gligar. At this point, we do have to shield up the Psycho Boost. And now we're down a shield. What is in the back? They go for the Psycho Boost and dip again, and then they dip into a Lanturn. I go up to right before they make it to the serve after 6. Go for the Aerial Ace bait. I don't think the bait is a mistake, because I'm very sure they're going to shield it, but going for the move in the first place is a bit of a mistake, because if their switch timer comes up, it will come up 15 seconds before mine, or approximately 15 seconds. Meaning, if their switch timer comes up, they get 15 seconds of their Deoxys countering my, or doing counters to my Greedent. So that was not really ideal. I should have just swapped out immediately to not let that potentially happen. The way I can counteract that is having energy on Greedent all the time. So if the switch timer comes up, which it ends up not doing, I could just throw a charge move at the Deoxys to minimize the amount of time it gets on my Greedent. As we get to the back-to-back Body Slam to take out the Lanturn, I don't want the Lanturn to come out of this with a move, so I do try to take it out. They do shield it up. We make it to the Aerial Ace on the potential CMP. They catch it on the Deoxys, but that's absolutely fine. The Deoxys has no energy, so we can just farm it all the way down, come out with another Aerial Ace. Gligar does win CMP against Lanturn, so they concede the match. We also had a shield. Next game, lead into a Shadow Victreebel. This is an IV-dependent matchup. We will, of course, win the 0 shields, but the 1 shields, it really depends on the IVs of the Shadow Gligar. If you can make it to another Aerial Ace, I don't want to take the chance. Also, I want to see if there's a Medicham in the back or something like that. There's a Bastiodon in the back. You probably already guessed that. Bringing the Lickitung. This is not a good matchup for Lickitung. And then we start just unloading Power Whips onto this Bastiodon. I am very afraid that it might be a Medicham in the back, because then they're probably getting it onto my Greedent. And of course, I can't really force any shields in this matchup, so Victreebel in the 2 shields is of course going to have a very good matchup against the Shadow Gligar, or not very good matchup, but it is going to be able to win it. So yeah, this is looking very rough if it is a Sableye in the back. I can't quite save energy on my Lickitung because the Switch Timer doesn't come up, but I can save it for a potential sack for later potentially. I bring in the Greedent, really hoping that it's not a Medicham in the back. They go for a Stone Edge, and then they bring in a Sableye. They want to save the Victreebel. I guess maybe they should have brought in the Victreebel here. They go for the Sableye. This is not a very good matchup for Sableye. We can make it to the crunch, and then if I don't start shielding some moves here, I'm just going to get Razor Leaf down completely. So dual shield up, it is a massive shield because it's a return. It of course takes 9 for the return, so this should be quite far away from another move here. We make it to the crunch, which does big damage, kind of big damage. I could have gone for another crunch here, but instead I decided to save a lot of energy on my Greedent. No shield this foul play. Our Switch Timers are misaligned a little bit, so I can farm up to 2 crunches, swap into the Lickitung, hoping they would throw energy into it. So now we have a lot of energy on the Greedent to throw at the Victreebel. Any charge moves on Victreebel is nice, so having energy is very nice. Go for the potential farm down, try to farm down the Victreebel. They come out with a move, they go for the Acid Spray here. So if this entire game is going to come down to, can I get off both of my fast moves or charge moves with Greedent? Is this Smackdown going to take out Greedent, or can we get off the second crunch as well? This Smackdown does not take out the Greedent. We make it to the second crunch, and this will of course take out the Bastiodon. No, it is called Wallface. Definitely called Wallface. Next game, lead into a Medicham. I'm not sure I want to call this a good lead. The reason why I really like Lickitung on this team is you kind of need a little bit of extra coverage on one of your normal types to be able to handle Medicham, like at least decently, as they try to catch an Aerial Ace on their Bastiodon. We of course have to shield up the first Ice Punch because Gligar doesn't have that comfortable of a matchup against Medicham. Especially not because I'm not getting the attack breakpoint. You can't get an attack breakpoint if you have a really attack weighted Gligar that allows, like Shadow Gligar, that allows you to win the 1 shields as well. But they're trying to catch a move on their Bastiodon. That just means they're gonna have to shield the move and also take a dig and also throw a Flamethrower into my Greedent as we catch the move. I don't think I could farm the Bastiodon down with Lickitung, so I bring in the Greedent instead to catch the move. And then we can mud shut down the Bastiodon, come out with a lot of energy on Greedent. This is a bad matchup, but Greedent with this amount of energy can definitely threaten the Medicham because it's just so very spammy. We can make it to yet another Body Slam, and then we have yet another one stored as well. They shield this up, we make it to this 3rd Body Slam. This will not take out the Medicham, but it will bring them low. I hope I can mud shut them down so they don't get to counter me down. They do get the counter down. I would rather take the energy from the Medicham on my Lickitung, so of course I'm going to bring in the Lickitung to take this Ice Punch. They threw it immediately, thinking that I was going to bring in the Gligar. We take it on Lickitung. That's very nice in the back. It's another Sableye. I could take it out with Lickitung, but I would rather showcase the power of Shadow Gligar as we go for the first Aerial Ace to do big damage and make it to yet another Aerial Ace onto this Sableye as well. This will of course take out the Sableye, and that is another very good game. Next game, lead into another Medicham. I think this is a good lead, but not an amazing lead. They swap out into a Lickitung, we do 3 wing attacks, and then swap into a Greedent. They threw the move immediately. Greedent does have a very good matchup against Lickitung, I should say. They threw the move immediately, so I'm trying, it takes 6, and then 5.5 in 2-turn moves for Lickitung to get to Body Slams. So I want to place them in a way so that if they throw their moves immediately, they're throwing a bad timing, which is why I didn't throw a charge move there. But now it's 5.5 for the 3rd one, so I threw 1, and then they were at a half. And then I go 3 more mud shots, and now they're at 4, so I can do 1 more, and now they're in 5.5, meaning that if they throw immediately, they're gonna throw in bad timing again, meaning I get an entire 3 points to the system I invented in the last video, which is amazing. We get in 3 mud shots for free. As they bring back in the Medicham, we bring in Gligar. I don't want to throw immediately because I want to try and wing attack them into a range where I only have to throw 1 Aerial Ace to take them out, so that I can overfarm perfectly. But the thing is, if you don't get the attack breakpoint, you have to throw 2 Aerial Aces in the 1 shield, or like, it's not even enough. Like, they just win the 1 shields. 1 Aerial Ace is not enough, so I have to go for another one, either shield or go for another one to take out this very low health Medicham. They do shield up their Medicham, indicating that they might not have a perfect response to Gligar in the back. So I do shield up my Gligar. Also, I don't really like saving shields for my Lickitung. Lickitung is a sponge. It doesn't get shields. It's very sad, but that's the life of Lickitung. Then they bring in a Gligar. They will outpace to the next one, but I'm hoping they won't throw it immediately. They're probably going to throw it immediately. They've been throwing everything immediately. This will take out my Gligar, I think. But now we can bring in the Lickitung. We still have a move stored on Greedent, so this should be a pretty good scenario. As I say, Lickitung has a quite comfortable matchup against Gligar. They go for the Dig here, if I remember correctly, which is the correct move, in case you haven't looked it up. It is more energy efficient. I'm very wary that they have a potential catch, so I really try to throw in the middle of their fast move. And then I bring in the Greedent to try and go for the Body Slam. I over-tap, unfortunately, but they still don't catch it on their Lickitung, so we still get off the Body Slam, which barely doesn't take them out. We mud shut down the Gligar. The Lickitung is so low, it can't do anything, so they concede the match. Next game, lead into Deoxys. And I had a plan for this team. You're probably going to recognize the team that the opponent is running. If they swap into Dewgong, I just swap in Greedent, because even if they... I'm going to explain that later. But they swap into Umbreon instead because they didn't want to swap in their hard counter. I'm assuming because it is the Dewgong team. Now I'm still kind of going to have to swap in Greedent, but I have to get switch advantage because I don't want Dewgong onto my Gligar, and I'm very much expecting that there might be a Dewgong in the back. But if they swap into Dewgong, you can just swap into Greedent, because they have to go down a shields. If they go straight Icy Wind, and they will, if they go straight Ruin against Greedent, they actually win the 0 shields, but no Dewgong is going straight Ruin. If they go straight Icy Wind, they have to give up a shield in order to win switch. If they don't want to win switch, fine by me. If they do go down a shield to win switch, I'm going to bring in my Gligar to farm down the Dewgong. And then they're going to bring in their Umbreon on my Gligar, meaning I get the Lickitung onto Deoxys, and I have two pretty neutral matchups of a shield. And that was my plan for that team, but they brought in the Umbreon. So I had to bring in my Greedent. I have to make sure I keep switch advantage. We do keep switch advantage. We bring in the Gligar onto the Deoxys. But a Dewgong, as they're going to bring it in here after throwing this Psycho Boost. I'm very much expecting the Dewgong, so I don't think my Gligar is going to have all that much value. I farm up to the Dig, swap out into the Lickitung as they bring in the Dewgong. But Dewgong, with 2 shields, being able to just debuff whatever they're up against into oblivion is really annoying to deal with. I am very much expecting that they're going to shield up the first move because they want to apply even more debuffs before taking charge moves, and they do shield it up. That's why I went for the bait. It takes 5, then 4, then 5 for the Dewgong. I was very much considering baiting again, but they've already gotten off 2 debuffs at this point, so I do go for the Power Whip. They can go for the Icy Wind, but at this point my Power Whip is just not going to be enough to take them out, so I farm up instead, and then I try to go for a CMP sack with my Gligar, go for the Dig. It doesn't take out the Dewgong, and they farm down Gligar. There are 2 moves right now, so I have to go for the CMP tie, even though I know I'm going to lose it, because otherwise they get off both of them. So now I can shield the first one, get on the CMP tie, and then we can get rid of the Dewgong, but they still have that Deoxys in the back, and they're just going to be able to farm down Lickitung. And I don't really know how much more I could have done in that game, but yeah, good game. Next game, lead into Shadow Swampert, and I become a little bit too accustomed to just trying to catch on my Lickitung every time. And I don't know if all of my opponents are talking about this, because they seem to have become accustomed to it as they don't fall for it. Instead, they overfarm massively with their Shadow Swampert, and then they bring in a Galarian Stunfisk onto Lickitung. Shadow Gligar, Gligar versus Swampert, if one of them is Shadow, Gligar can live the Hydro Cannon, which makes it gives it a lot more play against Swampert. But if both of them are Shadow, the Mud Shots add up enough to where one Hydro Cannon is enough. So it's a really difficult matchup. But if we can get energy on Gligar, it actually still has play against the Swampert, because the wing attacks add up enough to where one Aerial Ace is enough. I know that a Hydro Cannon is going to KO anyways, so I don't care about taking another move from this Galarian Stunfisk. I don't want to take 2 moves from it. And also I didn't want to throw an entire Dig into the Galarian Stunfisk, and an Aerial Ace would only have done about 16%, so I didn't want to throw the Aerial Ace either, because it wouldn't have taken it out. So instead I save all of the energy on Gligar, hoping that it can potentially win against the Swampert in the back with that amount of energy, as once again I'm going up against an Alola Marowak in the back. This is of course a very good matchup for Greedent, but I'm anticipating that the opponent wanted to save the Swampert for my Shadow Gligar. which is why they brought in their Alone and Marowak. We can go for 2 crunches, they shield up the second one, and then they go for a move as well. Meaning, and they go for a Shadow Bone, meaning now we can bring in the Gligar. Unfortunately, we can't really overfarm too much because we already have so much energy. And once again, I just don't know this matchup well enough. Otherwise, I could have undercharged, but no, we just take it out. We still come out with a lot of energy, but the Swampert had 5 mud shots from earlier, so they're close to the back-to-back here. I think they're 2 away from the next Hydro Cannon. We can wait a turn, go for the Aerial Ace. 1 Aerial Ace should be enough to take out the Swampert, but they still have that Galarian Stunfisk in the back. They overfarm and they still have a move. I can't really wait a turn because they have a move stored. If I wait a turn and they go for the move, I just don't get a fast move through myself. So go for the Aerial Ace to catch it on Stunfisk, but they're still 1 away from the back-to-back, so we can make it to the Aerial Ace on the CMP, on the first Hydro Cannon, so we can shield up the Hydro Cannon, go for the Aerial Ace, and even though they have another Hydro Cannon stored, they will not get it off because this Aerial Ace will take out the Shadow Swampert, and Shadow Gligar is a Shadow Swampert counter confirmed. It is not a Mantine counter confirmed though. This is an even worse matchup. As once again, I try to catch the Ice Beam on Lickitung. Once again, the opponent overfarms, but they decide to throw energy into my Lickitung. It's only an Aerial Ace, so it's only 5 wing attacks worth of energy. They still have 5 wing attacks worth of energy, and then they bring in a Greedent. If I were my opponent, I would have just swapped in my Greedent, saved all the energy on Mantine for Gligar later. But Gligar can, with enough energy, it actually has play against Pokemon you wouldn't expect it to have play against. As Lickitung, as I'm speeding up some of these battles, like parts of some of these battles, I don't know if you've noticed, I just don't want to showcase like a really, really long Lickitung Umbreon or Lickitung Greedent or something like that battle. So yeah. The Greedent takes out Lickitung after just spamming Body Slams or like all hell. And once again, the Mantine has a move that can one-shot Gligar. So it doesn't really matter if I have this amount of HP or this amount of HP. Although maybe they can now go for Aerial Aces instead. But getting more energy is more valuable than the amount of HP I have from taking that 1 Body Slam. So we can make it to 1 Aerial Ace. Trying to take a look. Is 2 Aerial Aces plus Wing Attack, is that a win condition we can go for with the Gligar against Mantine? Maybe. It's maybe optimistic. They bring in a Diggersby, a Mudshot Diggersby on Greedent. This is a good matchup for Greedent, for Diggersby. But if Greedent doesn't take any charge moves, it's a Mudshot Diggersby. So if we don't take charge moves, it doesn't really do any damage to Diggersby. As we can see, we shield up the first move. I thought they might go for the Hyper Beam. They go for the Scorching Sands bait. We want to go for the Body Slams before they make it to another Scorching Sands, because we want to go for it before they can debuff. And then they make it to another Hyper Beam, potentially, and we shield it up once again. And because we're chipping it down so much, we might be able to take up this Diggersby without taking any charge moves, especially because we've just shielded up an entire Hyper Beam. That's a lot of energy to shield up as they go for another move. And then I was going to overfarm because I was anticipating that they were going to go up to the Hyper Beam. They actually just go for the Scorching Sands after 6. And then they swap into the Mantine to go for a move with the Mantine as well. They get the debuff, unfortunately. Maybe I should just stay in here regardless of the debuff, because I'm bringing the Gligar to clear the debuff. They make it to another Aerial Ace. And this will actually take out the Gligar. But now I have cleared the debuff on Greedent, and we did a little bit of fast move damage with Gligar, so maybe they're in Body Slam range, and to go for the first Body Slam, they fall away from the next Aerial Ace, so we can overfarm to right before they get there. Greedent does win CMP, but I didn't think 1 Body Slam would be enough to take it out, so I have to throw 2. We throw the second one on CMP, and I think I'm gonna be able to outpace the Diggersby in the back. But the switch timer comes up, and because the Diggersby has more health than the Greedent, that counts as a loss. And that is an absolutely heartbreaking loss, because I'm pretty sure I would have been able to outpace. Next game, lead into a Diggersby. They swap into a Mantine. We go for the Aerial Ace before swapping into the Lickitung. This is another matchup where I could have just swapped into Lickitung, saved the energy, or like if I had swapped pretty fast into Lickitung. But going for the Aerial Ace puts the Mantine into a range where I only have to go for 1 Body Slam, and I can potentially come out of this matchup with a lot of energy on Lickitung. And then start just throwing power whips into the Diggersby, which is very nice. So I try to go for a move right before they make it to another one. Unfortunately, they throw in pretty bad timing, but we still get it off, and this will still take out the Mantine. And we still leave the Lickitung in a range where they have to throw a charge move in order to take out the Lickitung, which is very nice. We overfarm as much as possible to right before they make it to the Scorching Sands after 6. And then we go for the first power whip, and because we overfarmed so much, this is a bit of a tendency you might see sometimes with my battles. My opponent underestimates how much energy we have on the Lickitung, so they undercharge the Scorching Sands, not thinking we had the power whip loaded, allowing us to get yet another power whip off. We bring in the Gligar, the opponent farms up to 9, meaning they do have the Hyper Beam. We shield it up, they full send the Hyper Beam, good thing we shielded. Then they bring in a Pelipper, and this is not ideal. This is a bit of a core breaker for our last 2 Pokemon. We go for the Aerialist to grab the shield, and then we bring in Greedent, and Lickitung would have been a lot nicer against Pelipper. This is where I realize that Greedent is not the best Pokemon for Open Great League. I think it's better for Ultra League. As they go for a Hurricane, as I mentioned in the last video as well, it's so high risk, low reward to go for the Hurricane. I don't think it's worth it because it's only marginally more energy efficient, but you risk so much energy, so much more energy by going for the Hurricane if the opponent has a shield, of course. Lickitung would have easily been able to live a Hurricane, or relatively easily been able to live a Hurricane from the Pelipper from this range, but Greedent doesn't. So now they're going to be able to take out Greedent with this Hurricane. They even overfarmed a little bit, so they're going to be able to get to a Weather Ball onto Gligar as well. This is super effective. Come on, Gligar. Gligar lifts it on very low HP. We farm down the Pelipper, and we get to the Aerialist on the Diggersby. That got very close. But yeah, Greedent, not as bulky as you might think. Really not as bulky. It wins CMP against Medicham. Like, it's really not as bulky as you want it to be. Next game, lead into a Lanturn. The Lanturn does outpace, and because I have a not too good IVs on my Gligar, the serve is really not comfortable to take, so I do decide to catch it on Lickitung, and then they decide to farm up a lot of energy, almost back-to-back serves on the Lanturn, and then they bring in a Gligar. That energy on the Lanturn might become a problem for my Gligar later on as we go for the first Body Slam. This is a good matchup, but they have done quite a lot with the serve and the Sparks. So the Gligar might be able to take out Lickitung as we go for the second Body Slam. Then they make it to a move, but from a regular Gligar, Lickitung can lift this. And then I decide to save a Power Whip on my Lickitung because I know it's a Lanturn in the back. I don't really care which, like both Gligar and Lickitung have decent matchups against Lanturn, so I don't really need Switch Advantage. So I save a Power Whip for the Lanturn, bring in the Greedent, take one Aerialist, go for the Body Slam right before they make it to the next Aerialist. This will of course take out the Gligar. And then they bring in a Golbat, a flyer that I haven't really seen a lot. And it takes 5 for the Poison Fangs for Golbat. And of course this does apply a debuff, but Greedent does take it on the chin. And then I'm always trying to overfarm as much as possible in situations where I can, because a lot of the times it's difficult to keep track of how much energy Greedent has because it just farms up energy so quickly. They are at the Poison Fang, they will be able to win CMP, but they don't throw it, underestimating how much energy Greedent had. So we can't get off this next Body Slam to take out the Golbat. I don't want to get farmed down, so we bring in the Gligar. They're back-to-back serves at this point. This is not looking ideal. As they go for the first one, we shield it up. We have to shield up the second one as well. We do have the Power Whip stored on Lickitung, but a Power Whip is not enough to take out Lanturn from this range, not even with the wing attack damage. So we need to land a charge move from Gligar on this Lanturn as we go up to the dig, bait with an Aerialist, go up to the dig once again, bait once again. Very risky baits here. We grab 2 shields from the Lanturn, but that was a CMP. They do get off the serve. This is gonna do a lot of damage, but it doesn't take out Gligar. Can we make it to the Aerialist? We just about make it to the Aerialist, and I think the Lanturn is still 1 spark away from the serve, so we can swap into the Lickitung, go for the Power Whip, and from this range, this will be enough to take out the Lanturn, and that is a very good game. Very comfortable 3-ball flex, clearly. That was the last battle for today, and overall, I am a big fan of Shadow Gligar. I think it has great coverage for the Open Great League. Greedent, on the other hand, is a very good Pokemon, but it's not Lickitung. And that is really all I have to say. Now, it can beat Bastion in the all-even shield scenarios. It can beat Registeel in the ones. It has play that Lickitung doesn't. Lickitung is just so much more bulky and so much more powerful in neutral matchups. It just has a different feel. Greedent doesn't have that bulk, unfortunately. Other than that, fun fact of the day, Shadow Gligar only needs 2 wing attacks advantage to beat Shadow Swampert in the 2-shield scenario, because 1 Aerialist is enough to take it out. Pretty crazy. Other than that, if you liked the video, remember to leave a like. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. And of course, a massive thank you to the members of the channel. Your support is very much appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.